Welcome everybody to the Roots Action Thursday call series. Today we are talking to Judith Whitmer and Pia Gallegos. Before we get into that, let me give you a quick rundown of what we're doing here. So for anybody that is new, these calls are designed to be educational first and foremost, engaging. We want to talk to you. We want to engage with you, answer your questions, and we want to provide opportunities for you to take real actions on the call with everybody else in a really simple, non-intimidating way. So if you have questions, if you need us to walk you through it, we're going to do all of that after we talk to our guest speakers, which we are very honored to have today. I'm very excited. And we welcome feedback. So send me a message, type it in the chat. Let me know how you think about these events, and we will change. We'll take your advice. We are live streaming on Facebook right now, so if you have to leave early or you want to share this with people, go to the Roots Action Facebook page and you will find this live stream that you can share. And then tomorrow, or hopefully tomorrow, if I can get everything done in time, this will be uploaded onto the Roots Action YouTube as well. Quick update on our campaign. Our Rahm Emanuel, Reject Rahm Emanuel Coalition has officially launched, and we have a ton of organizational support behind that. Just a quick highlights from that. At the national level, we have the Black Youth Project 100, Demand Progress Education Fund, Justice Democrats, People's Action, the PDA, Progressive Democrats of America, us, Roots Action, Veterans for Peace, Working Families Party. There's a bunch of them. We also have a ton of Chicago groups as well, specifically because they know him more than anyone. Including the Chicago Committee Against War and Racism, Chicago DSA, and Indivisible Chicago Alliance. You can learn more on rootsaction.org. We have a bunch of Common Dreams articles out there. We'll share some stuff in the chat as we get going, so you can learn more about that. And once we move on to our action. If you have not yet signed up to be a volunteer, you can go to rootsaction.org and sign up, get to know us, join our team, and you will start getting emails from me, and I will start engaging with you and trying to get you to join more calls like these and take actions, writing our senators all the time, doing letters to the editor now, which is huge, 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 especially early on in any kind of political battle. So without further ado, I want to introduce our two speakers tonight, our two guests of honors that I'm going to be talking to. First, we have Judith Whitmer, who is the former chair of the Clark County Democrats, but now, amazingly, so excited to announce, well, not really announce, everybody knows, she is the newly elected chair of the Nevada Democratic Party, and couldn't be more proud, couldn't be more happy to have you on the call with us. So thank you, Judith. And we also have Pia Gallegos, who is a New Mexico-based social activist, been a trial lawyer for 3 years. She was the co-founder and former chair of the Adelante Progressive Caucus of the Democratic Party of New Mexico. And she is on the board of directors for rootsaction.org. So technically she might be my boss. So I hope I do a good job, Pia. I don't know. But thank you.
I've been a lawyer for 37 years. Just
37 years. Oh man, we need to update your bio then. Almost 40 years. Well, thank you. Welcome both of you. I guess to start, we'll start with you, Judith. How did you get to where you are? What happened? Can you give us a rundown of what happened in Nevada?
Sure. I guess the story goes back to 2016. Like a lot of you, I was a delegate at the convention for Bernie here in Nevada. And after that, regardless of where you stood on anything, there were a lot of missed opportunities for progressives. Here in Nevada, especially, I saw a lot of people start to talk about doing something, but then it didn't get done. So in the lead up to 2020, even though we weren't sure that Bernie would run again, we were sure that progressive change needed to happen. So I founded an organization called Left Caucus, which is a chartered Democratic caucus. So it's within the Democratic Party to start working on change internally. I'm a proponent of the inside-outside strategy, where I think it's going to take a lot of us pushing on all those pressure points from within and without to bring change. And so when the caucuses came along, as you know, here in Nevada, we won by a landslide. And a lot of those caucus goers were not only really enthusiastic, they were motivated to stand in line for hours to cast their ballot for Bernie during the early vote. Here in Nevada, we have a slightly different, we had a hybrid process this last election where we had an early vote in the lead up to caucus day. So people could vote early vote or they could attend caucus day. So, that night when we were able to celebrate his victory and with Nina Turner, and it was just incredibly exciting, and looking around me at all the younger, diverse electorate around me that helped get Bernie over the line. I just kept thinking about how much change these people could make if we all worked together and kept them within the Democratic Party to bring that change. So I worked really hard around the clock to organize all of those caucus goers, the delegates for Bernie coming out of caucus all the way through the convention process. And we were able to do that by working on the platform. As everybody knows, progressives care about the issues and policies. Right. So we had a huge fight, both at the county level and the state level, trying to get different planks adopted into our county and state platforms. But that seemed to excite people even more, to have that ongoing battle to work on, so that, that was another way to keep people engaged. And we kept them all the way through the state convention. And by doing that, we were able to, at that time during the state convention, elect 9 out of 10 at-large executive board members. So we ran a slate then called the Progressive Slate during the state convention. And like I said, we won 9 out of 10 of those seats during the state convention. And from there, people could start to see that how important it was to organize together, stay together, fight together, and keep involved. And we've done a really good job of keeping progressives organized here. Every time we have a central committee meeting, we have information sessions ahead of that to let them know what's coming up, what the process is, how to engage, how we need everybody to vote. We like to do by consensus here. So during those info sessions, we would decide how we were going to vote as a block by consensus. And then people showed up and they voted. And, by the time the state central committee party elections came up for officers, I had already been working for the past year to get more members onto those committees. I brought over 1,000 people onto those county and state central committees. So we had the votes. And as, of course, many of you know, there were a lot of last minute dirty campaign tactics. They even tried to bring another progressive on to run against me. But again, I'm the one that's been doing the on the ground work for the past few years now. So we had the votes, our voters showed up, and we were able to elect our whole entire slate. And that's incredibly important because that gives me the team to work with. And that, along with the other members of the executive board that were already in place, means that now we can start to affect real change, systemic change and structural change, to start, making sure that we're doing everything we can to peel back all the layers and build a structure that's transparent, accountable to people, and that also empowers all of our communities to bring change as well.
Awesome. Two things you mentioned there that I think are super, super interesting, and it seems obvious to me, but maybe not in other states, is a policy focus. And it feels like that might be missing in a lot of Democratic parties statewide. And then the on the ground, the work, actually getting to know the community, being in the community. Do you think those were like the primary differentiators that allowed Nevada to elect this slate?
I think those are always primary differentiators because, we were told over and over again, the function of the party is just to raise money to elect Democrats, period. Right. And that you shouldn't be doing anything other than voter registration and electing Democrats. But I have found over and over again through all of the community engagement that I do with other organizations as well, and through my role on the Clark Dems board, was that what I was hearing over and over again is people want to feel connected and they want to be engaged in the process, but they want to know you're hearing their voices. So I've been moving us into an advocacy role. And I think that's incredibly important to the success and growth of the Democratic Party, whether you believe that's the right path or not. For me, it's about the fact that right now we know the Republican Party is going to do nothing for us. Right. So to me, this is an effective approach to start building an organization that is answerable to the people, that returns power to the people and becomes a true democracy. So by doing that, we are engaging committee and we're engaging people on the policies and issues that are important to them. I've heard over and over again from people that they're not willing to continue to turn out to the polls if nobody's going to pay attention to their needs or represent their needs. So that's the work that we have to do. And again, by committing to that advocacy work is how we're going to keep engaging people.
That's awesome. I completely agree with that too. Shifting to Pia real quick, the Adelante Progressive Caucus in New Mexico, how did that come about? What is the history there, and how has that grown and built? And I guess what is the outlook of the New Mexico Democratic Party?
Well, we've only been a group of progressives within the Democratic Party who have been trying to move the party to the left for about 4 years. So one of the first things on our agenda was organizing and figuring out a really good way to reach out to just neighborhoods and canvas. But the other big effort that we made was to form a progressive caucus within the Democratic Party. And we did get pushback from leadership at the time who said, oh, we can't have another caucus because the caucuses aren't accountable and we don't really have a rule that, and we did have a rule and we followed the rule and they still wouldn't let us get in. So they wanted a new rule. So we wrote a new rule for the whole state party in order for us to get in under that rule. And that's the way it's been. We were formed as a caucus maybe about 2.5 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. And we've done so much. We've been able to stack the state central committee, which is the governing body of the state party. We've been able to stack it with progressives. We probably at this point, we probably have 50% progressives, at least, maybe more. I think we have more right now because we just had an election, and in that election, we got a lot of progressives. So it's probably more than half at this point. And then we've run a lot of people for ward chairs, precinct chairs, and we've got a progressive chair of the county party, Bernalillo County, which is the biggest. It's the one that includes Albuquerque. It's the biggest county in New Mexico. And it really comprises about half of the state central committee. We got a progressive state platform and resolutions committee. And we got a lot of progressives on the finance committee. And so now we're running the treasurer of the finance committee, and the old treasurer, who's the old guard leadership, he felt so pressured that he has withdrawn his candidacy for treasurer. So we're definitely going to get a progressive treasurer. And we ran a progressive slate for the Democratic National Committee. And I was one of them. We came really close, but we didn't get it. But it was just a few votes. And so one of the things that we've worked on recently is the No More Dinos, Democrats in Name Only effort that was started by, a couple of local organizations, Retake Our Democracy, but also working family parties. And we contributed money to that, and we contributed a lot of effort to that. And we were really successful. We removed 4 conservative senators from the state Senate, and we put in a whole bunch of good representatives. And now we have a fairly progressive state Senate and House. We just had a legislative session, and we participated in that legislative session by doing op-eds, by publishing things on a statewide level, and also by participating in the committees. Everything was on Zoom, but we really worked on passing some good legislation, and we are really close to getting a Health Securities Act passed. And the Health Securities Act is a Medicare for all type of bill within the state of New Mexico. So last year, we got the funding for a study. There's been a few studies done, but that study was sponsored by the state. It came out with savings of billions and billions of dollars over the next few years. And now this time we put in the council that's going to govern a Health Securities Act. So we're really close to getting that. We also repealed an old abortion law in case Roe v. Wade gets overturned. And we lowered the payday loan, and we did a lot of great things with the environment and stuff like that. So we also do an intake outtake or inside outsider kind of strategy. And we partnered with a lot of organizations. We partnered with Retake Our Democracy, which is just a wonderful organization based out of Santa Fe that's really analyzing the legislature. And the next thing that we're going to take on with them is this legislative council committee. They're the ones who make the decisions on how a piece of proposed legislation impacts will impact the state treasury. And they work behind the scenes, and they really they kill really good progressive bills. They're called the Legislative Finance Committee. They analyze the fiscal impact of bills. So they're really killing these bills. That's our next target, is we're going to target them to and we don't know how yet, actually, but we just figured out that that's really what we need to be doing. So that's what we're going to do next with Taos Progressives and PDA and even the Humanist Society.
How important is it? And I'm going to ask you this, then I'm going to go to Judith as well. Or if you need to take a break, I can go to Judith right now. I'm not sure if you were talking to a guy in the room or anything. How important is it? Judith also talked about running a slate and winning these party positions. You were talking about these treasurer positions. I feel like a lot of voters don't realize just how important each of these positions are within these state parties. How important is it to win these individual seats within the party? As you know, the chair is great to have, but you have to have everything else as well. Can you talk to me about why that matters? And then Judith, we'll go to you for the same question.
Well, the treasurer matters a lot and the finance committee, because we don't have transparency. All we have is our senator giving us lots of money, and then it goes to campaigns, and there's no accountability in terms of aligning the output of the money with our progressive goals or with whatever our goals are. And our platform and resolutions committee is completely progressive. So you think that, the money would go toward implementing the platform, but it doesn't. And we have a lot of members on the finance committee, and we could not get this intransigent treasurer to be transparent with the money. And so that's not going to happen anymore, because we're going to get a really good treasurer now. And then as far as rules, like rules committee, like there's always these efforts from the mainstream and the party leadership to crush the voice of the progressives. That's really what it is. It's so weird. They didn't want us to form a caucus to begin with. And they brought out all the big guns so that we couldn't get on the DNC. They had all of our legislators and our senators, US senators, US representatives endorsing the other candidate. They were really afraid of us. And then
I dealt with very similar things in Arizona too. So yeah, I feel like that's the game. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, there's one more example that I want to give on the rules committee, is that they were trying to come up with this rule that caucuses can't endorse in the primaries, which would mean, of course, that the incumbents would always have this advantage. And they were just trying to rush this rule through the rules committee really fast. And then, but we stopped it. We got all the caucuses together, and we crushed that effort. So that was another thing. So you have to be vigilant, because they're going to be trying to squash us.
Right. They like from every angle they possibly can. And there's so many more angles than I think regular voters realize. Judith, did you have a similar experience with, pushing the slate and the importance of these individual seats in the party?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it was also about having a team to work with. In prior administrations, it's been a real top-down approach to the party. So where, you had the state chair and an executive director that just pretty much operated outside of the executive board, didn't bring anything to the executive board. So there wasn't a lot of transparency there. By having a team in place and empowering those members of the team to actually do their jobs will be a lot more effective. And as for the treasurer position, I agree entirely. We found here in Nevada that a lot of the record keeping was not transparent. There was tons of money coming in through the coordinated campaign with no accountability, no full reporting. And as you know, they transferred $450,000 out of our account just before the election. So another good reason that the treasurer's position and having a treasurer that's not going to allow that kind of thing to take place is incredibly important. So the thing is, again, they underestimate progressives, and we've been able to out-organize them at every turn by engaging our members and building consensus and working together. And also, like I said, moving to an advocacy role on issues and policies as well within the party. But rules and bylaws, she's right, because that's what happened here. And that's one of the things we're trying to change. So back in 2016, it was a deliberate rule change at the county party level to prohibit caucuses and clubs from making endorsements during a primary. So we're in the process of getting that eliminated. Here at the state party level, it's a standing rule, not a bylaws amendment. So it's going to be easier to eliminate that. But we did just recently have to fight back an attempt during a central committee meeting right before the elections, where they tried to make it an actual bylaw that no club or caucus could endorse during a primary. We've also found that access to VAN and other tools and resources has been very restricted to the candidate of choice, of establishment choice, rather than leveling the playing field. And my thing all along is that the people should be selecting their candidate, not it shouldn't be up to our state legislators or anyone else as to who the preferred candidate is. I think it's incredibly important for clubs and caucuses to be able to endorse during a primary and make sure that they're able to vote for the candidate that aligns with their values and principles. Why do we not think that's important to people? It just makes absolute sense to me. People want to have a say. And if they don't think they have a say, then they're not going to turn out to vote. So in the end, what good is that going to do? Because the margins, as we all know, are getting narrower. Yes, Democrats can point to some victories and here in Nevada as well. And yes, certain aspects of what they did in the past were successful, but they're not sustainable because the margins are getting narrower by refusing to listen to people, by refusing to represent the people, by refusing people to have a seat at the table or in the decision-making processes. People are turning to nonpartisan registration in greater numbers. So if the Democratic Party wants to truly expand and grow and be the big tent party, then we have to start walking the walk. So that's what it's about. And why the party thinks that ideology isn't also important when we're talking about diversity and inclusiveness is beyond me, because most people do engage on policies and issues that are important to them, more so than whether they're conservative or moderate or progressive or anything else. It's about the issues and policies. So again, I talk to people every day that say, hey, we all turned out to vote against Trump, but don't count on us the next time around if there aren't some substantial changes. So that's why I think it's important for us to do this kind of work, because the momentum is on our side, the people are on our side, and we're representing the people here.
Right. And to clarify for everyone listening, when she says VAN, that's the voter database for the Democrats. you pretty much can't win without access to van, without a huge gobs of money and tons of, you pretty much can't win with it. It's how you know what doors to knock, what numbers to call, who to text, who to write postcards to, who to send mailers to. So if that is restricted in any way, your campaign is, I mean, I don't want to say dead in the water, but you're fighting pretty close to it. Yeah, I would never tell anyone they have no chance, but man, that would make it hard.
Right. It would make it really hard.
My next question kind of leads into our first question from Ian that he has in the chat here. He's in Georgia, and I guess generally, what tips would you have to repeat your successes there elsewhere, to repeat the success? And this is for both you, Judith, and Pia next. How can you create this left caucus, like you were talking about, this progressive base, especially in places like the South? I'm in Indiana. Ian is in Georgia. The Southwest is, 10 years ago isn't what it is today. It's changed a lot. So how do we build power in places like this? We'll start with you, Judith, and then we'll go to Pia.
Great. So a few of us founded Left Caucus basically by having a lot of conversations in my living room about how we could make institutional changes and remove the obstruction. Because just as Pia spoke to, there's a hell of a lot of obstruction to progressives. And I think, the whole narrative around the total electorate only wants moderate candidates, or they'll only vote moderate, is what's given way to candidates saying, oh, we can't possibly do that because we won't win re-election. And if we don't run re-election, then the Republicans are in control. The Republicans are in control, then everything goes out the window, which they're right. If Republicans win control, everything is out the window. We saw that under Trump, and how much damage Trump did to the whole country, and how much our BIPOC communities were impacted by, his racist regime. So, and the rise of white supremacy. So we are cognizant of that narrative, but we also say that it's just not true anymore. It really isn't. If you're out really doing the work and engaging with people, listening to people, I don't actually like to engage with people by using labels. I actually engage with people by talking about the issues that are important to them. What's important to you and your everyday struggles, because you're going to find different answers, but you're going to find answers that pretty much align with progressive policies and issues and things that we're seeing on the ground that are important to people. For instance, here in Nevada, all the money seems to go to the top of the ticket, and the down ballot races are a lot of times sacrificed in favor of making sure that all that top down campaigning is done, all the money is there. But what happens when that happens is that that greatly impacts the daily lives of Nevadans, and I'm sure it's that way in other states as well. I mean, they care about school board races. They care about city council races. Those kinds of decisions are what impact their daily lives, sometimes a lot more than a U.S. Senate race, for instance. But I also will say that after all the incredible work done in Georgia, there's no way in hell in Nevada that we're going to let you down, and we're going to make sure that our senators reelected and hold on to that Senate majority. Stacey Abrams and the people of Georgia just did an immensely incredible job. But again, that was through grassroots organizing too. And that's one thing progressives are really good at, is grassroots organizing. And what else? We're good at fundraising. So we're going to replace that $450,000 too. And we're going to be successful. And we're determined to be successful, but we're also determined not to sacrifice our values and principles in order to get there.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. You really can't talk to voters about the issues now. They know what's going on. They know what they want. You can talk to them like people and not just rest on platitudes and legacy and names alone. Pia, I'm gonna unmute you and focus you. Same question for you. Lessons learned. How can what you've done be repeated elsewhere? Oh, do we still have Pia?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me okay?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. So what what was important for us is to form a nucleus of people who were willing to really kind of dig into the rules and see how we could elbow our way into the state party. And then once we had the caucus, once we were able to, get the bylaws written, get a rule written, and then get some officers who we recruited from all over the state. So we recruited the officers from progressive organizations, activist organizations, organizing them into a few people from each district of the state, and then we were able to shove it through the state central committee. And if you invite them, they will come. So once you have a progressive caucus, then there's just so many people who want to join, and everybody says the Democratic Party has a progressive caucus. Where do I sign up? So it's just hard to form that nucleus and really figure out what do you need in order to get in, and who do you need to know. Yeah. But then once you have it, you can really zoom. Oh, and the really great thing about New Mexico is that our state treasurer, who is this very establishment-oriented corporate type, he said to us, "I am not going to take care of your membership fees. You guys are going to have to go to the state and form a PAC. So take care of your own membership fees." So now we're a state PAC. So we actually operate independently somewhat of the state party. I mean, we're still kind of beholden to the rules. We're called of the Democratic Party of New Mexico, but we're a PAC. We can get money and donations and give them to state candidates.
Right.
Awesome.
No,
Nice little
that's
bonus
also
there.
important. I want to add on to that a little bit, because you can do that here in Nevada as well. I'm sure you have to take a close look at the structure in your state. But with Left Caucus, what we did was charter as a Democratic club. And we're about to go for a statewide charter as well, but we're chartered under the county, the Clark County, which is the largest county in Nevada. It encompasses Las Vegas and the surrounding areas. But you should be able to do the same thing there in your own party to form a chartered club or caucus and start giving a home for progressives who might not be encouraged to engage with the party otherwise, but if they're able to have a place or a home within the party, that they feel that their voice is heard and they are able to organize with those people, like Pia said, a nucleus of people, then that becomes sort of your basis for organizing. And here, Left Caucus is probably similar to what she's talking about with Progressive Caucus, and we have that capability as well. The clubs and caucuses here are allowed to donate to candidates of our choice. So again, all those things can make a huge difference when you're trying to organize and organize members into the party structure. Also here, our DNC structure is a little bit different. So as state party chair, I am now automatically a member of the DNC, and so is our new first vice chair. So again, a good reason here to have a slate and getting more DNC representation of progressives into the DNC. That's also incredibly important because, a lot of those decisions made at the DNC, we would like to change that process somewhat as well. Rules and Bylaws Committee and every state party, probably some in the past has had a little bit more power than it should have to control what comes out to vote for membership. But here that's changing as well by having more progressives on the state central committee. When a vote comes up, or if we want to submit a motion to change the bylaws, we're going to have the votes. So that's incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. A question from Brianna. She is a Nevada Democrat. First off, she says, it was amazing about your win. How can the voters help you? How can a Nevada voter help you? How can they help empower you? What do you want from them in a perfect world?
Well, I want people to be involved in the process. If we're going to bring real change and we're going to advocate for issues important to Nevadans, the people need to be involved, actively engaged in our communities. We do a lot of mutual aid projects in co-sponsorship with the DSA. We do a lot of community service projects. We do a lot of community engagement within all of our BIPOC communities as well, attending clubs, club meetings, community meetings, things like that. So we're always on the ground engaging throughout the year, not just at election time. So for us, I think it's mostly about staying engaged, staying involved. If you are not a member of some, club or caucus that you want to know more about, contact me. If you are not a member of the Central Committee yet, contact me. All those things are incredibly important to keep progressives organized and keeping them engaged in the process to bring real substantive change.
Yeah. And let's, I'm going to go through as many more questions as I can before we move to our action, but we are running a little long, but that's okay because everyone's very excited to talk to you and we got lots of questions. You kind of covered this. Michael K is asking, how are you going to get the $450K back? It's almost as if them taking it's the perfect commercial, the advertising you need to get it back.
Yeah, I don't think they realize that, though. You have to understand that there have been several attempts to subdue and obstruct progressives now for the past few years, starting back in 2016 when they realized, that there was a lot of progressive support for Bernie back then, and then the movement has been growing since then. In 2020, it was a landslide win here in Nevada. So instead of embracing that and saying, okay, the electorate is more progressive, we should be doing these things, they sort of doubled down on the obstruction and try to make it harder for us to be part of that process. And we already have been able to overcome that by staying engaged and out organizing them at every turn. And again, you would think they would say, oh, wow, they do such a great job with grassroots organizing. Maybe maybe they're onto something. Maybe they're connecting with people. Maybe they could be really valuable in winning elections. But no, we saw that they tried to set us up for failure. And we've seen that before, where they think that we don't know what we're doing, or that we don't know how to overcome these kinds of things. But yes, it was the almost like a giveaway. They were very obvious about it too. It wasn't like they even tried to hide it. They put it out there. They talked about a shadow party. And if that irony isn't lost on anyone, let me spell it out for you, that the establishment Democrats not only walked away and took, the 450,000, but they said, we're not willing to work with you. So we're going to try to form our own shadow party. I mean, if that doesn't seem a little hypocritical, and if you don't see the irony of that, it's just incredible to me. So here we are doing the work, following the rules, and we're here and engaged. And then, the old school top-down structure doesn't like it. Right. But again, they're talking to progressives who are incredibly good at grassroots organizing and incredibly good at small dollar fundraising. If you haven't seen already, we're already doing that small dollar fundraising to replace that 450, so that we have operating expenses. And I'm sure a lot of you have gotten the text from Senator Sanders asking for contributions as well for the Nevada Dems. So again, we do know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a while. Just as an aside here about my own career, I had over 27 years in project management, managing multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects. And the last ones were for the city of Baltimore. So yes, I do know how to allocate resources and manage personnel and contractors and consultants. So this is not something that I am going to fail at. And it's not something my team is going to fail at. And we are absolutely committed to success and to building a more representative People's Nevada Democratic Party.
That is awesome. That's so I guess kind of coming off of that in terms of the money, Andy is asking, when you're looking into the party's past financial activity, are you just seeing a lot of money enriching a lot of consultants, or are you seeing anything weird there, misspending, ways you would do things differently? Is there anything weird about it?
I'm not at liberty to give you all of those details yet.
That's okay.
We'll soon. But I will say we are going to be doing things a hell of a lot differently. So I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Let me scroll through and find a couple more questions. There's a lot. There's so many messages in the chat right now. So let me try to find some. Does the National Party have any control over your finances at all, or can you operate independently?
Well, with the Nevada State Democratic Party, and I'm sure it's the same case with the other state parties as well, the DNC actually does contribute funds monthly. And I have had some great conversations with the chair of the DNC, Jamie Harrison, with Vice Chair Ken Martin and the Association of State Party Chairs. Pia may have found this as well, but the Association of State Party Chairs and there is a Progressive Caucus of State Party Chairs as well, are incredibly supportive. This isn't a good look for any of them as far as what's happening here in Nevada. They have been really supportive of our efforts, and they have legitimized us and welcomed us and congratulated us and said that they're here to help us, which is, again, the irony is not lost on me here. But I think that we're going to start to see a lot more of that. We're going to start to see a lot of change in the so-called establishment structures going forward, because the DNC, along with everybody else, has got to start seeing the bigger picture here. And there's a lot of really smart, incredibly gifted people, talented people in these positions. And I'm sure that they take a look at those margins too, and they take a look at what's going on around the country. And this pandemic has shown us that the same old ways of doing business just aren't working for Americans, for the people of America. So we've got to make changes, and we've got to start addressing the needs of the people.
Yeah. And I think we got Pia back now.
I'm here.
All right. I guess for both of you, Pia, we'll go back to you real quick. What do you do with this is a weird question. What do you do with the old guard? Do you ignore them? Do you work with them? What is that relationship like for whatever remains? And I know for you, Judith, there is apparently a mass exodus of the Progressive Unity ticket, which is my favorite irony. But how do you work with the old guard after they put up such a fight to prevent you from winning? We'll start with Pia.
Yeah.
Oh, we all just smile at each other and pretend to like each other. That's really what we do. And so I think we have a progressive county chair, and I think that she is a real example of how to handle it. She's truly inclusive. She's truly Big Tent, and she's truly a progressive. So she always includes the progressive viewpoint and always moves toward the progressive viewpoint, and is always really progressive in what she does. And she's super competent too. And she's been so competent in all of this, going to Zoom on everything, and the state central committee and all the precinct meetings and all the ward meetings, all by Zoom, and she organized that. But what she's really taught me is that, we can use everybody. We just need to control the party, but we need everybody. And there's lots of, Democrats are super diverse and diverse in our opinions and our ideologies and our perspectives, but our ideals are the same. We have different ideals than Republicans. We all value human rights. We all value women's rights. We all value poverty, eradication of poverty, and we all want health care for everyone. It's just that some Democrats don't understand how to do it quickly, or some, whatever, just we come from different perspectives. But when you focus on the values, we can include everyone, is what I've really learned from Flora Lucero and also from Cheryl Harris, who's the chair of the Adelante Progressive Caucus. And she's actually on Zoom call in
N-
case
not-
you need to ask her a question.
Not only is she on this Zoom call, she has her hands up. So Cheryl and Spunky, I see both your hands up. We'll go to Cheryl right now. I'm gonna do ask to unmute on Cheryl.
Thank you. I forgot to take my hand down. So I put my comment in the chat. I think you have to integrate everywhere you can, which, like Pia said, Pia got on the Rules Committee. I and 2 or 3 other people were on the Budget and Finance Committee. We had a very progressive Spark platform, State Platform and Resolutions Committee prior to forming Adelante Caucus. So we had Flora Lucero as our county chair in Bernalillo County. We have other counties that are very progressive, like Santa Fe and Taos County, Doña Ana County in southern New Mexico. So we had some good foundational pieces in place. And then I pulled a bunch of my friends like Pia together. We started meeting at, where'd we meet at? What's the name of the restaurant we met at once a week, and just got it together and stuck together. So it can be done. We also researched, part of what we did in organizing was we went to every state website, found out which states had progressive caucuses of different types, and talked to a lot of those people in those other caucuses to learn from them. And there's like 20 states that have progressive caucuses. So get on the phone and the internet and start building our networks. One thing Pia and I talked about was it'd be nice if we could get all the progressive caucuses to work together to influence the getting on the DNC. And by the way, I don't know if you all know it or not, but we ran Pia and Jay Levine for National Committee Man and Committee Woman a year ago, and they came that close to getting elected against 2 establishment candidates. So believe me, in 2024, we'll be ready to take on those 2 positions too.
That is awesome. I'm gonna lower your hand now. Spunky, I'm about to go to you. Ian McClay, did I answer your question? Did we get that answered? Kind of, okay, good. And Spunky's raising her hand. I'm gonna do ask to unmute. And you can go, feel free to ask your question once you unmute.
The woman who was speaking on before, she said you can contact me, and I actually put in the chat, and I kept raising my hand so that somebody would see me instead of on here.
I see you. I see you.
And she said you can contact me for the different things to get in touch with, the various things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, unfortunately, I'm not one, I had a stroke. I'm not one who remembers names. She was, I lost you. Sorry, I dropped you on the coffee grinder. You all right there?
We're all right. We're all good.
That's good. Don't want to grind y'all up. So what is that woman's name?
We have Judith here and we have Pia. Judith is from Nevada. If you want to reach out, you could send me an email and I can get it to her. Would that be okay?
You know the woman who said you can contact me?
Yep, absolutely.
The woman who, I think she's gone. I'm not seeing her again.
Oh, it might have been Pia then. But if you send me a question, I will make sure that I can get it to them specifically so that you guys can interact. Is that okay?
She said that you can contact me, to get involved in the different things. And
there we
that's
go.
what I wanted to do.
Yep, Judith just
I'm very active.
Yep, Judith just put her email there, chairwhitmer@nvdems.com, and you can get a hold of her there, okay?
Oh, and that's who that is, Judith?
Yep. Thank you so much. Or at leftcaucus.com.
Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. I think we've gotten through most of our questions now. So I'm just gonna ask one final one. We will go back to Judith here. Biggest lesson learned. What is the one lesson that you would want progressives in your own state and every other state to take with them? What do you want people leaving this call knowing?
That change is possible by working together. And when we fight together, we win together. And that means, coming out, showing up, being there, joining, getting involved. And just like Pia said, and everybody else has said, sometimes it starts at the county level. Like I was the county chair. I began working in 2017. I was elected a second vice chair and then eventually became chair of the Clark Dems. So I was building that structure there at the county level too. And we're seeing that more and more of our county chairs around Nevada are in general much more progressive than they used to be. So a lot of this work has to be done on the local level, not just at the state party level. And we have to recognize that as progressives, again, we're going to have to think about ourselves as a larger movement for change, transformational change. And not everyone is going to have the same path to that. Not what's possible in Nevada might not be the same structure that you encounter in a different state, but we're here for you. I think, that speaks to what Pia was talking about and everybody else was talking about, was that we have to have a connection and we have to be supportive of each other and find ways to get there in every single state so that we can remove that obstruction and start to work for real substantive change across the country. That's basically by staying engaged and actively working together, we're going to have real power. And we have to start taking that power. And that's what's going to be incredibly important in the next coming months, in the next few years. But I think the momentum and the time for change is right now. And we have to keep applying that pressure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Pia, same question for you. What's the best lesson? What is the lesson that you want people to take home with them today? Well, not take home. We're all at home. But what's the best takeaway for people from you?
Progressives are the majority of this country. Everybody wants a decent wage and everybody wants an education, and everybody does, is burdened by this threat of global climate change. And so we all want the same thing. And it's up to us progressives to get the message out, because the mainstream Dems are too absorbed in getting money and keeping their consultants going and keeping their little cabals of power. And so it's all about just joining with the real people and taking over the party. Thank you, Judith. What an inspiration you are to us. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work you're doing, Pia.
Yes, thank you both. And thank you, Cheryl, for popping in there as well. I appreciate you as well. So yeah, with that, that's going to end our conversation here. I see a couple more questions that I might just forward on to you if that's okay.
Sure.
Judith and Pia.
Yeah,
that would be, that's awesome. So you feel free to stick around, but this is like the hard stop between conversation. And now we're going to move on to our action that we do every week.
Thank you again. Thank you again, Ryan. I've got to jump onto another call, but really thank you. And anyone's feel free to contact me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith, so much. Much appreciated. All right, I'm going to now make myself the spotlight video here. And Pia, same for you. Thank you so much. Feel free to stick around, engage on the chat. I know there's people still, we have tons of chat. The chat room is going crazy tonight, which is awesome. But you feel free to hop off if you need to as well. No problem. For today's action, we are once again going to be contacting our local newspapers, calling our senators, and emailing our senators and Joe Biden specifically about rejecting Rahm Emanuel. And I know we've done this a couple times if you've been with us before, but I have to tell you, it's working. It's no other way really to put it other than it's working. There's stories coming out every day now that he's on his heels and he's in defense mode and he's trying to salvage whatever chance he has. And I don't know how good of a chance he has at this point. So let me get this. I'm going to share the document first off in the chat.